Regular meeting of the San Juan Planning Commission will call the order of the meeting at 6:04 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Ahmed's absent. Commissioner Curtis,
Here.
Commissioner Kuznick,
Here.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair Wallace,
I'm here.
and Chair Alpert.
And I am here as well. So if you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3.1 is the swearing in of Planning Commissioner Gene Kuznick.
I am how to raise my.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the State of California, and the Constitution of the State of California, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and will bear true faith and bear the true faith of the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the and that I will well and faithfully start the duties upon which I am about to begin.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to make a slight change in the agenda so the script works tonight. We're going to move items 3.2 and 3.3 to take place right before item 12.3 in the agenda. So do we need to make a motion to make that agenda change? Are we okay? Okay.
I move we can move items 3.1 and 3.2 and 3.3 to prior to section 12.3.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Wallace. Have a second, please.
I will second that motion.
Okay. We'll do. Oh, we did. She snuck it in there. Good for her. Great, thank you. Motion passes 4001. Terrific. Okay. Item 4, public comments. At this time, members of the public are encouraged to address the Planning Commission on any items not already included in tonight's agenda. Comments should not exceed 3 minutes, and no commission action can be taken at this time on issues raised during public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
Not for this item, but I do have a hand raised on Zoom.
Okay. Good.
Hi, good evening. Commissioner. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, wonderful. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Kuznick for volunteering your time again. I am very happy that you are reappointed. And I also want to share with everyone that I really respect you. Yesterday, when I saw you sitting on the sofa, waiting to see Miss E to get some more answers in preparation of tonight's meeting, You are the very kind of citizen volunteer that all taxpayers can only pray for, but may not necessarily get. We are so grateful for all the time that you put in on behalf of us, and we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speaker cards?
No other hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, and do we have any written comments?
No.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Item 5, additions and revisions to the agenda. We made the one change already and no others. Item 6, the consent calendar. We have nothing. Item 7.1 is the approval of the minutes from our meeting from June 6th. Again, changes, corrections, updates. We can go ahead and take a motion to.
I will move that we approve the minutes of our last meeting. The June 6th, 2023 Planning Commission.
Okay, go ahead and press the button.
I will go ahead and second the motion of that to approve the June 6 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Kuznick, if I could ask you to press the button. Great. Okay. Motion passes 3-0, 1 abstain and 1 no vote. Okay. Item 8, continue items after the close of the public hearing. We have none. Item 9, continued items for the open the public hearing. We have none. Public hearing, new items. This is a public hearing on an AT&T monopole replacement located at 9850 Alcosta Boulevard. And joining us tonight is Lucas Haas. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Alper and Commissioners. Before you tonight is Land Use Permit Application 2023-0001, the AT&T Monopoles Replacement Project located at 9850 Alcosta Boulevard. The subject property is General Plan Designation Open Space, Zoning District Open Space 1, and the subject property is a 17.23 acre parcel located in the Doherty Hills. The existing 17.23 acre parcel includes open space, 2 existing East Bay Municipal Utility District water storage tanks located in the southwest corner of the parcel, multiple wireless telecommunication facilities located on the north side of the parcel. The subject property is located within the Doherty Valley specific plan and is accessed via an approximate 0.65 mile access easement located along 9850 Alcosta Boulevard. The original existing wireless facility was originally approved as a Pacific Bell facility by Contra Costa County in the early 2000s. The subject property was annexed into the city of San Ramon on November 30th, 2020 via LAFCO 20-05, the Doherty Valley Annexation number 18, thus transferring all jurisdiction of the existing wireless telecommunication facilities and use permits to the city. The applicant tonight is requesting approval of a land use permit application to remove and replace 2 existing 13-foot tall wireless telecommunication monopoles. The existing facilities had a final configuration of 6 panel antennas and 12 remote radio units. The new proposal for the new 2 21-foot tall monopoles will incorporate a final configuration of 8 panel antennas, 12 remote radio units, and new associated equipment for the upgrades. In addition, the applicant has provided a radio frequency report, which concludes that the proposal does not exceed thresholds of significance as set by the FCC. Here is the proposed site plan. The existing AT&T facility lease areas can be identified through the 3 dashed boxes on the north and east section of the parcel. The 2 to the southeast are the existing monopole locations. The new poles will go and replace the existing poles in the same positions. To the north of the parcel is the existing equipment pad. All additional equipment associated with the modifications will be located within the screened equipment pad area. Here are the proposed elevations. As mentioned, the new modified poles will be located in the same position as the existing poles, only 8 feet taller. All new equipment cabinets and equipment will be facilitated in the back of the equipment pad, again, fully screened from view. The applicant has also provided us with some photo simulations. This is a southwest view from Doherty and Hibiscus Road overlooking the park. The proposed on the bottom, the existing on the top. Additionally, this photo simulation is a view from looking northwest from the south end of Rancho San Ramon Community Park. The two AT&T monopoles are to the front of the 6 existing poles on site. The subject property is located again in the Open Space 1 zoning district, and as stated by zoning ordinance D2-25A, any alterations to existing land uses and structures within the OS1 zoning district shall be designed, constructed, and or established in compliance with the requirements specified by this use permit. Due to the co-location of facilities on the site, the zoning ordinance section D4-43 classifies this site as a preferred wireless communications facility site. Again, due to the location and co-location of multiple carriers on this property. In accordance with FCC and zoning ordinance standards, due to the increase of the tower by an increase by greater than 10%, the project is subject to local discretionary review under in accordance with section 6409A of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act, as well as zoning ordinance section D4-44D, due to the scope of work and alterations to the height of the equipment. So for background, the previous Contra Costa County approvals for this site included a condition that required the applicant and all carriers on site to agree to cooperate in relocating all equipment cabinets and antennas to faux tree designs or structures and buildings that are comparable and consistent with the surrounding areas. However, the condition stated that the applicant was under no obligation to initiate the stealthing and visual improvement processes prior to the deadline date of November 30th, 2020, the same date as annexation. Now, City Planning Services staff has contacted Contra Costa County staff regarding the status of the discussed agreement prior to the annexation of the subject property, and have confirmed that neither the applicant, AT&T Mobility, or any wireless communication facilities on the subject property have signed into this agreement. Therefore, in consultation with the city attorney's office, we view this condition as unenforceable and is proposed to be removed under this application review. Moving forward, under zoning ordinance section D44F, this facility should be designed to protect the visual characteristics of the city of San Ramon, and any adverse visual impacts and development shall be mitigated to a level less than significant. To accommodate this finding, the proposed project continues the approved pre-existing streamlined design with non-reflective finishes for all antennas, cabinets, and associated equipment. The streamlined design is consistent with and does not exceed the height of the other wireless telecommunication facilities on site, and the equipment cabinet is fully screened to reduce visual impacts. The proposed facility is consistent with the surrounding development and previous approvals, and the proposed modifications do not result in any significant changes to the existing visual characterizations of the property. As presented to the commission on the DS this evening, following publication of the staff report, the city attorney's office made it aware to staff that the access agreement to the adjacent Doherty Valley Geologic Hazard Abatement District properties has expired, and therefore the following condition of approval has been added to the Planning Commission Resolution 07-23. Quote, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall enter into an access easement agreement or equivalent with the Doherty Valley Geologic Hazard Abatement District. And that can be found in the red line copy of the resolution provided to you this evening. Tonight, staff recommends that the Planning Commission receive the staff report, open the public hearing, and discuss the subject application, and if appropriate, adopt Planning Commission Resolution 07-23. That is my presentation this evening. My applicant, Gary Goshberg, on behalf of AT&T Mobility, is in attendance via Zoom and is available for questions. He has no presentation this evening, so I'm also available for questions whenever you are ready.
Okay, at this time, do the commissioners have any questions for either staff or the applicant? Commissioner Wallace.
My question is pretty simple. Is the resolution that was on our desk the same one that was attached to the package we received last week, except for the addition to Exhibit A of the requirement for a access agreement between the applicant and the GAD?
Yes, no other changes were made.
Thank you.
Questions this time? No. So with no further questions, why don't we go ahead and open public comment? Do we have any speaker cards at this time? Okay, do we have any hands raised?
Yes.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and take them?
Call-in user 1.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
First of all, I want to thank AT&T for complying with all the policies and procedures, and your attachments are very transparent, and I thank you for that. I do have a couple of questions. Number one, in your attachment, there is going to be signage warning the public to stay away or minimize exposure to certain installations of the radio wave area. Are those going to pretty much be in the open space, or do you anticipate that to be somewhat too close to, say, schools or residential area? That's my first question. My second question is, recently I had an extremely horrifying personal experience because my HOA was so irresponsible for not getting my permission first, but authorizing a company called Sale.net to climb above my roof in a townhome community, citing that otherwise there is no proper connection that can allow our HOA pool to continue to use fob entry on the pool gate. I am curious though, personally, my home has AT&T coverage. Why is it that our HOA cannot utilize your coverage? I just want to understand if it's all like a business gimmick where my HOA may be getting kickbacks from Sale.net by bypassing AT&T, or that AT&T, because it's a private community, is subject to certain authorization. And if that's the case, how can I, as a resident, help you, a reputable company, to do business in my private community? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We have other speakers in the audience? And their hands raised? Okay, and any written public comment? Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public comment. Other comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Kuznick, you have anything? Commissioner Curtis? Nothing, Commissioner Wallace? No, I have no further questions. So my understanding is the request is to review and adopt the resolution if we have no other concerns or follow-up work for you or the applicant.
That is correct.
So why don't we take a look at the resolution that's on the dais as opposed to the one that was in our staff packet? And again, to reiterate, the only change was the addition of the one condition of approval.
Correct.
So we'll use this one just to keep it consistent. We'll go quickly through the resolution. Any comments or suggestions or corrections for page 105? Okay, page 205. Page 3 of 5. Page 4. And then page 5. Okay. Okay, moving on to the conditions, Exhibit A. Special conditions, page 1 of 3. Nothing. Okay, conditions 6 through 14, which are on page 2 of 3. Any questions, concerns? No. Okay. And finally, page 3, standard conditions, 3 of 3. Okay. With no other changes, if we can go ahead and open for a motion, ask for a motion.
I would move that the planning commission approve resolution number 07-23. A resolution of the planning commission of the city of San Ramon approving land use permit 2023-0001.
It's been moved by Commissioner Wallace.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Okay, this has been moved and seconded. Okay, the motion passes 4-0-0-1. With no other discussion on this item, we can go ahead and move on to agenda. There are item 11, non-public hearing action items. There are none. And then item 12, a study session. Tonight, we're going to discuss Chevron Park Bishop Ranch, also known as the Orchards. And Mr. Barr is going to kick us off with a short staff report, I'm sure.
Give me just a second to bring up the presentation. All right. Good evening, Chair Alpert and Planning Commission. Just a real quick introduction. Over the past several months, the Planning Commission has had several study sessions related to the Chevron Park redevelopment project, which is now referred to as the Orchards. Through the process, the workshops have allowed the commission as well as the public to provide feedback regarding density, layout, amenities, the need for buffers to Inverness Park, and other potential development impacts. At the April 13th study session, there were some questions related to site visibility from Inverness Park, a desire to look at feasibility of single-story residential along that perimeter, as well as increasing density along Bollinger Canyon and the freeway. So tonight's study session is to provide Sunset Development the opportunity to respond to those comments and solicit additional feedback from both the public and the commission. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Alexander Moran for his presentation. You can use that or the.
Chair Alpert, members of the Planning Commission, thank you so much for having us back tonight. Between the housing shortage, the changes in life that have been created by the pandemic, the economy, climate change, and all the other things that are impacting our life in California, we're certainly at a pivotal moment. And I just wanted to salute the city of San Ramon for always being action-oriented and creating opportunities to advance our city for our residents. And this is certainly one of them, and we're proud to be a part of that tonight. We did that at the founding in 1983, did it with the construction of Doherty Valley, the delivery of this building, City Center, City Walk, and this is a big next step. We appreciate your time. So for the last 10 years, we've been pivoting Bishop Ranch from being one of the world's premier office parks to becoming the heart of San Ramon, one of the world's best suburban cities. To us, this means that we protect, preserve, and enhance our existing assets, our beautiful landscape, public realm, Class A office buildings, and the new city center, which is becoming a socialization hub for our city. It also means we leverage what San Ramon is, a safe and high-quality city with great planning and top-notch education and services. The future piece is what Bishop Ranch will turn Bishop Ranch into a true downtown for San Ramon. To do this, we need to deliver incremental retail and many different types of homes within the existing walkable framework. This will create the vibrant, energetic downtown that we've all been looking for, but without compromising the wonderful existing values and environment, most particularly preserving our neighborhoods and our open space. I'd like to discuss this land plan for a moment. It's evolved from working with you and the community over the last many months. It comprises many different types of projects. Some are existing, some are under construction, some are proposed that we've worked with you in the past, like the City Walk project, some of which is under construction. The ring allows for a 15-minute walk time and a 5-minute bicycle ride. We've focused a lot of time figuring out how to put together the land uses within that ring in a way that provides legibility and cohesiveness for the downtown. It provides an accessible retail core along the primary artery on Bollinger, with experiential retail in the heart of San Ramon, where it is certain to be successful. It provides our best office projects nested within key sites. It provides thousands of new homes with tiered density to create a diversity of great neighborhoods. It provides diverse housing options with both ownership and rental opportunities. It will support our existing retail centers that need it so much, and it will strengthen the city's walking district. We program these uses in a thoughtful way to deliver a cohesive and balanced plan that provides mixed use in a horizontal fashion where most buildings can benefit from a single-use typology with a mix of adjacent uses. Transitioning to orchards, as we've talked about, the three focus points of the plan have been higher density development along Bollinger Canyon Road, a new concentration of retail and a vertical mixed use environment at the site, and a variety of housing typologies in 10 years scaling down to complement Inverness Park to the south. As we've discussed, the project has 2,600 residential homes, 125,000 feet of retail, a 2.5 acre park with retail activation, which we spoke about here, a perimeter greenway connecting the site to the Iron Horse Trail. What we'd like to follow up on are the two items you asked about in April. These were the building height and density along I-680, and the second was to study the sight lines of the neighbors in Inverness Park with the new homes. This is the latest land use plan showing higher density product stopping at the Heritage Tree site on the west side of the site. We feel that these heritage trees are very important to protect and give ample space. We also feel that the heritage trees provide a natural breakpoint to transition to the lower rise homes, and feel that this is the correct treatment for the transition from the 4 to 5 story to the 2 to 3 story product. Three neighbors have graciously allowed us to take photos from their backyards. As has been discussed, the buffer has an average of 75 feet that we designed and a minimum of 60 feet. The three images were taken in areas that represent the shorter distance, and they cover the differing site conditions along the perimeter. The range of distances face of building to face of building, face of existing home to face of new home would be about 100 to 150 feet. As a data point, in Inverness Park, the homes are 20 feet between each other laterally, and on the front of the house, they're 100 feet face of building to the other face of building with a street in between. So this would be that or greater with a greenway buffer that has a berm rather than a public street. There's negligible grade separation between the two sites, plus or minus 2 feet. It's been said in the past that these homes will tower over the site. I think many people felt that the homes would be constructed at the top of the berm. So when you actually go over the berm, the site is plus or minus 2 feet from the existing graded Inverness Park. It's also important to note that these are photos. And so the roof lines are superimposed on the photo, which creates them ahead of the landscape. Obviously, in reality, they're behind the landscape. So if we put them behind it, we wouldn't be able to see the lines. So this first picture is right on the property line where the wooden fence has been removed. So you can see here, there's roof lines that are well below the trees. And you can see here the finished floor elevation of the future development at 438 and the existing backyard at 438 also. This is another view of a different home, which shows that the roof lines are behind very dense landscape. And this last one is slightly less dense landscape, but in our view, we feel that all three of these provide pretty significant visual privacy between the two projects and have minimal impact on the existing neighborhood. We're open to the idea of single-story homes, which has been discussed a lot. We'd like the market to dictate that if that's acceptable to you. A single-story home would cut the amount of homes by 50% where those are developed. And so we'd like to, if there's a strong market for the single-story homes, we'd be happy to deliver those, but we'd like the market to decide which homes are most in demand. So tonight, we'd like any feedback you have on what was presented. I know it's nothing earth-shattering. And if acceptable, we'd like to transition to more detailed site planning from the land use bubble program that's represented here. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, do we have some questions for the applicant at this time?
Yeah.
Sure, you can go first.
Okay. I'm going to start with the easy stuff first. On the pictures you had from the backyard, I'm just not clear what some of the numbers refer to, and I do not know what the acronym FFL stands for.
Finished floor level.
Okay. Then, and when it refers to finished floor level, that's what, the ground floor?
Yes,
Okay.
compared to the ground floor of the other side.
The building height, that refers to the proposed building at the Orchards.
Correct.
25 feet would be how tall, how many stories?
2.
2 stories. Okay. And so the drawing depicts the 2-story building. And I'm referring to the second of the 3 photos that you have. The next one over, next one.
Yeah, so Stephanie Hill on behalf of Sunset Development. 25 feet is being used for a 2-story home, 35 feet is being used for a 3-story home.
Okay, so if you go flip to the next slide. Okay, so you have 2 dotted lines, and forgive me for being kindergarten, but could you explain to me what those 2 represent? The 2 blue dotted, I hope they're blue, I'm colorblind.
So essentially it's the outline of the building. So the bottom line is the bottom finished floor level, and then the top line is the roof line. And as Alex mentioned, a piece of the challenge of this is we're looking at a flat picture where it's showing essentially the building is floating in the sky, but that's not the intent. It's just because of the distance between the existing backyard and the building that it's essentially showing that it's kind of floating in the sky. But if you look at the backyard, it's at just about 434 feet. And then that building is at 433 feet. So the backyard is just about a foot taller than the ground bottom of the building.
Okay, when you just say in the photograph, existing backyard 433.7 feet, you're talking about feet above sea level?
That's the grade level.
Oh, okay, okay. I was trying to figure that. I thought that was maybe the size of the backyard or something.
No, so we're talking about elevation. So we're trying to compare the elevation of the ground in the existing backyard and then what that ground is going to be for the new buildings or the new homes that we're developing.
Okay. So at this point, you're basically showing what a 2-story building would look like were it built, or the row that faces that's closest to the Orchards. But no decision has been made about whether the ultimate building will be 1 or 2, because you want to see what the market will sort of dictate in that regards.
That's correct. But for purposes of these images, we're showing between a 2 and 3-story home, 2 stories being about 25 feet, 3 stories being the 35 feet.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I'm sorry, let me go back again, since you mentioned 2 and 3-story buildings in the same breath. On the drawing that's up on the board now that says existing backyard 433.7 feet, are the blue, is the top blue line a 2-story building?
That's correct. It's showing 25 feet. So
Okay, all right.
it's showing 2-story buildings along the back of that backyard.
Okay, all right, got that. Now, since you had a photograph of the entire land use, I'm going to ask you another question. And that is, could you go to the land use diagram? Whoop, that's far enough. In the upper left-hand corner, this is the retail area that we've talked about since you first came in front of us in January, I believe it was. Now you have a 6 to 7 story residential building, mixed use. Now, in your visualization of what that would look like, are you looking at a 6 or 7 story building with ground floor retail or commercial with 6 or 7 stories of residential above that, or a 6 or 7 story residential building with a commercial building adjacent to rather than beneath?
So the concept that we're looking at for that hatched area is that it would be one building with the ground floor being retail, commercial, variety of different types of uses. And then we're looking at 5 to 6 stories of residential on top. So in total, a 6 to 7 story building with that first floor
Okay,
being primarily a retail or commercial use.
okay, thank you. It wasn't clear to me whether the total stories included the ground floor commercial. Okay. All right. What's the next step in your proposal, assuming that we haven't said anything here that causes you to freak out?
By the way, I apologize. I asked Stephanie to join me, but I didn't properly introduce her. Stephanie Hills, our Senior Vice President.
We've met, I remember when we did the tour of the property, you were with us.
I'll let her.
So what we would like to do is to use this land use diagram as the basis for adding an additional detail. So we're looking to put in some additional street networks. There's been some commentary in previous meetings about linear parks and greenways, and what does this look like when we start breaking down some of these pieces into smaller uses. So what we'd like to do is to get a little bit more granular on this land use diagram to start looking at what do the blocks look like? What do the streets look like? What does circulation look like? Parks and open space. So essentially start adding on additional layers to this land use plan while targeting the 2,600 residential units, the retail, commercial square footage, and then really looking at the parks and greenways and open space.
Well, if you're looking for feedback, I, for one, would appreciate a little bit more granular level, picture of what you're referring to, so we could get a better idea. One other comment I would make, and Mr. Mayron mentioned this during his introduction about the possibility of housing along 680. And he mentioned the legacy oak trees there. And when I went through the property at least once, I would agree with keeping those oak trees for 2 reasons. One is that they are legacy. They're well over 100 years old. So there's a level of history that goes with those trees. But second of all, as mentioned when we did the walkthrough, there is a reasonable possibility, as I understand it, that the area beneath those trees could function as a mini park for residents and other people. And having been there, I think that would be an extremely valuable use for those trees. So I wanted to add those 2 comments since you were asking for feedback.
Appreciate your
you.
comments.
Okay. Sticking with commissioner questions at this time, because then we're going to open public comment and I'll have a chance to
No,
make comments again.
I do have a quick question. I appreciate the photograph and how you've laid that out for us. My question is, the houses that are existing, are they multi-story, or how do they compare of the 3 that you have in these photographs?
I would need to go back and confirm which, but I believe that they're all 2-story buildings.
Well, that's kind of what I thought, but I just thought was worthy of a question to clarify. Thank you. So in other words, it's 2-story to a 2-story.
That's my recollection, but it might not be 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. I just have one question about the residential mixed use area. Why look at the mixed use area as opposed to just a singular retail building there with multiple similar to what we have over at the city center, where it's 2 stories of commercial use as opposed to a mixed use, to provide more access and opportunity for business, opportunity for jobs, and opportunity for growth of commercial, as opposed to having the mixed use there.
So part of how we've been thinking about this, and a piece of this is feedback we've received from the community, is really there's a desire for a different type of retail. Everyone loves city center, but there's also been feedback about perhaps having a different mix of tenants and having uses that are perhaps more retail or neighborhood oriented. So through our discussions, we've talked about perhaps that ground floor, it's essentially florists or pharmacies or kind of corner markets, where it's a different type of retail, not to equate this kind of fully, but we're thinking of it as a similar concept to Santana Row, where there's a really vibrant ground floor retail environment, and then there's residential on top, which helps to support some of the financial feasibility associated with building that new retail, and then ensuring that it's complementary not only to city center, but to the existing neighborhood shopping centers, which we think are greatly supported with the new residential that's being proposed.
Great thinking. I guess this will probably come when we get to the deeper dive in the diagrams, but for the parking of that mixed use area, it looks like it's coming right off of Chevron Drive and right against Bollinger Canyon. So where would people park if they weren't living there, but using those shops?
So within that hatched area, we do envision that there will be parking specific for the retail, which will be incorporated into the residential mixed use buildings. So we are expecting to have a parking ratio for that retail, which will support visitors from outside the area.
After tonight, is your vision still that you would be developing a master plan for this whole area, or how would this all get captured? You look at.
So we would envision it would be a similar to process to what we did with City Walk, where we would provide a more detailed site plan, breaking it down into smaller blocks, and then start working through design guidelines and follow a process very similar to City Walk.
Great. Okay. No more questions this time. Why don't we go ahead and open public comment?
Bill Clarkson.
Good evening. First off, I want to lay the groundwork by saying I think this is going to be a project that with the rest of the Bishop Ranch area is going to be an amazing project. Just lay the groundwork. We've spent some time walking some areas over in Mission Bay and other projects in the city, and I think this is going to rival, if not outdo, what they're doing. I say that up front because now I want to say something which is, I think it's unacceptable. I'm talking to staff. It's unacceptable that there be information presented this evening for the first time to us as residents and to the commissioners without having it been published on Friday and disseminable and accessible to residents to read and review prior to the weekend. It's unacceptable and it's disrespectful to each one of you that you're being asked to review material for the first time tonight on the fly. You should have received this earlier. I don't put this on the applicant. I put this on staff having expectations, or I'm going to put it on you guys to give clear signals to our staff that new information, if information is not available the Friday before to the residents and to yourselves, it cannot come. And if they have to postpone the meeting, let it be so. We need the opportunity to review material in advance and think about it thoughtfully. I had a lot of comments I wanted to make. I'm going to put them on a side and I will follow up with some information to you later on. I'll write to you guys, but I can't address it because I was really concerned that I'm hearing things for the first time tonight and we don't have a chance to really process it. And to give feedback to an applicant on the fly like this is doing the residents a disservice. I'm just sharing that with you. This is going to be a great project, but I want it to be a thoughtful project. And the last thing I'll say in terms of the short time I have here, if indeed you want to let the market dictate the kind of homes you're going to build in this area, and if you were to go out and interview in my profession, other real estate brokers for residential homes, they'll tell you build as many single-story homes as you can. Now, that's not practical. I understand that. It's not practical to build lots of single-story homes in this project. It's not. We want to densify this and create lots of residential housing. And my concern around having single-story homes along Inverness Park is not so much the visual part. Yes, that'll be helpful, but that's not going to drive it because I think visually it's not going to be really much of a problem. The issue we're going to have is we don't have single-story homes. I am seeing residents galore leave San Ramon. They're aging out of their two-story homes. They have nowhere to go. They're looking for single-story homes. They cannot find them in San Ramon. There's very few. Occasionally they can score one. You put a single-story house on the market in Inverness Park, you're going to get multiple offers. A lot of folks bidding war. If you let the market dictate this, you're going to build hundreds of single-story homes. It's not practical. But putting in 40, 45, less than 2% of the total, I think is practical. This will be a great project. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Call in user 1.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, please start the clock now. So this is going to be a very honest with love kind of comment. It is not personal. It is, however, observational and impartial. I am kind of fed up with Sunset Development for getting so used to the grace and the blessings that the community of San Ramon has given you, that you are now failing to give back to the community when you can. What do I mean by that? First of all, I have heard Mayor Clarkson repeatedly informing you that our community needs one-story houses. You continue to turn a blind eye or deaf ear on his request. I don't blame you, because when you can make more money being, lazy, to quite honestly, knowing that your communist Chinese friends out there who are renting your plazas that Mayor Clarkson helped bring you guys into San Ramon, why do you need to bother to pay attention to people like him? Who will be moving out? It's people like him. But I don't want him to move out, because the very reason that we're able to enjoy such wonderful quality of life in San Ramon is thanks to people like him. You said we will let the market drive it. You don't know where the market is? Are you crazy? Where have you been? Go to Central Valley. Every single developers in Central Valley are doing one-story housing. Why? Because there is a market, but they're mostly with white people. I can actually accuse you for racism because you're not building for white people. You're building for certain people that you prefer to deal with. Furthermore, you're bringing in crime into my city from San Francisco. I was appalled when I was at the Sunglasses Hut the other day at your property, and they told me that you burglarized, robbed in daytime 3 times. Why didn't you do something to protect those people who are not Chinese, who are doing business in this city? Thank you.
Thank you. I think there was a speaker in the audience. If I could ask you to speak first and then make sure you fill out a card in the back and give it to the city clerk. Okay.
With this property, with as many residential properties that you're putting in, I don't show any provision for daycare centers or where we're going to have additional school capacity. Montevideo is pretty well filled already, so I don't see that as being an option. So I would like to see, since we're talking about ecosystem that includes local residential, not industrial, commercial, etc., we ought to have some way of taking care of all these new kids who will be coming in. Thank you.
Thank you. And just make sure you drop a card off at the city clerks. Okay. Do we have other cards or hands raised?
I have a hand raised. Brent Van Brocklin.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Rimbaugh.
Hello there. My name is Brent Van Brocklin, San Ramon born and raised native, currently attending my master's at Berkeley for real estate development and design. Thank you for thank you for having this meeting. I actually just saw this morning about this project on SF YIMBY and was delighted to see this in my community. I went to school at San Ramon High. Or Doherty Valley, sorry. My brother went to San Ramon. I've just been there for a very long time, but I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I just finished class a little bit ago. But let me just begin here. I believe what our area needs is the high density alternative. Not only does it allow for more foot traffic for our city's businesses, but it also activates the space and goes above and beyond to meet San Ramon's arena needs, which are like the regional housing need requirement for California. If that isn't met in a couple years from now, the state will end up taking over the planning commission anyway. So it's better to just be on that. And I mean, with that high density proposal, I think it goes above and beyond. I mean, the number I saw was 2,800 units. I think that's excellent. I think San Ramon needs that. I think San Ramon needs more people willing to invest back in our community. I don't think we should limit it. I love the idea of that Santana Row style ground floor mixed use development, especially with like the 2 to 3 story townhomes. I love the whole visioning behind this. I mean, if we look at our neighbor, Dublin is currently doing the same thing. They're building massive transit-oriented developments. And I mean, with more taxpayers coming into our city, I think this will allow more money to go into our schools, more funding for improving streets and our emergency services. So I urge you and the community to recommend alternative 2. And thank you, Sunset Developers. I think this is an amazing project.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Do we have other speaker cards or hands raised at this time? Okay. You can go ahead and come up. If I could ask you to fill out a card and drop it off at the clerk's desk when you're done.
Hi, I talked with Bill about this development. I just got wind of it about a month ago. Me and my family moved out here from the Bay Area about 4 years ago. We live in the Athens Downs area off of Burns Circle. This development, I got a lot of concerns. You got an over influx of people and not enough schools. We have power issues where there's rolling blackouts, but you're going to put a 6 or 7 story multifamily home. That's more ACs, that's more power, that's more lighting. We went 11 hours, some of us, just end of last week, Friday, I believe, with no power with what we have now. A land size of this amount of these 6, 7 story, 4, 5 story buildings, that's a huge influx. My biggest concerns is I had a mad dash just to get into Montevideo with my 4-year-old. The way things sit now. And if not, they were going to make me take her all the way to the other side of town, way out of our district. There's plenty of space here to fix that. The call that we just had last time, the call that was just here mentioned, more schools, more money into schools, but more money for what if you're overcrowded? You can't add more students because then you have a teacher problem. You have so many people here with so many multifamily homes and so many kids. Where are you going to put them all? This is right smack in the middle of what would be, I believe, Cal High and San Ramon Valley, but they're all overcrowded. I've had to go to private preschools just because the areas that they're in now are completely overcrowded. But this is yet focused on all residential. I look at the grid where they showed 2-story buildings in people's backyards on a ground floor. I work construction. Those are finished floor lines. But what they don't understand is a lot of those houses there aren't 1-story houses where you're looking from a finished floor. So even though your grade lines and that little berm that's right there, sure, from a finished floor, it hides that. But when you start going up the 2nd story, you're a bird shot straight across. A lot of people in my neighborhood are moving out of one-story homes, and they are all leaving San Ramon, as Bill has seen, more than enough space to put one-story buildings in here, as kids and youth grows up, people want to come to San Ramon. There's not a lot to do here. There's plenty of space. You don't need to stack 5 stories worth of housing on florals or things like that. You can make things for children or for kids or for active groups and families that are already here. Dublin, I'll wrap up right here. Dublin did something similar right down off of Dublin Boulevard. And they put a park with all their 6-story buildings. The place is an absolute mess. Traffic's a nightmare. Park is way overcrowded. It's just, it doesn't flow and it doesn't work. And it completely screwed up that side of the city. And they keep building on that. I really would hate to see that happen here. My family loves it here. I would like to see follow along the guidelines of kind of what we already have, not something that's completely industrialized into just pouring more people into a small space. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. If you would turn in a card for the speaker at the time. Okay. Do we have any other speaker cards?
Yes, Taiwan's the country.
Hello, commissioners. First of all, I want to ask you, why is it that there is no agenda for the public today? When people come in here, if you want to encourage public speakers to speak, you need to let them know which item to fill out. There is absolutely no agenda at that table. That is a violation of the Brown Act, number 1, and the attorney should know. Number 2, I want to address the fact that there is something weird going on in our city. Lately, if you pay attention, Water District, extremely highly Asian, our EDAC, Asian.
Through the chair, the comments need to be on the record, the matter at hand, and not anything unrelated to what we're
But
speaking
it
to
is
tonight.
because this development is going to bring in more Asians specifically. And I'm from Taiwan and I have concerns because lately I am being stalked and followed by communist Chinese because I come here and
I
I
ask you to
speak.
please hold your comments to the project at hand, not
I
the
am.
ethnic makeup
I
of
am
residents today
concerned
or tomorrow.
This project is not diverse, equitable enough because it's bringing in specifically
If I could ask you to get,
people from
please return to
certain
the topic
region
at
in this
hand.
world. Were you listening? I think somebody, when I was coming in here, and I think I overheard loudly when I was still in the rotunda, I think it was Mayor Clarkson, his voice sounded like Mayor Clarkson, said something about the fact that you guys didn't even give the public enough time, and also that we need 1-story housing. That is a diversity that is not being paid attention. It's not equitable. I wish this commission to please address equitable housing in our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trish Shapland.
Hi, thank you. I live at 2838 Ascot Drive. So our property pretty much backs up just to the left of the heritage trees. And we have a 2-story home. And prior to Chevron, the transition of the sale, they came in and they pretty much clear cut the trees. So it's pretty open. And I think one of your photos actually showed that. And this is just a statement that I've been able to, we've noticed within the last year and a half. Those photos that were taken were during the day. I think the nighttime provides a very different view. We have lights shining into and that's just from the Chevron security, but that's constantly coming through. That's just a side note. I have a few notes and I apologize that I'm not more prepared. One of the first things I want to discuss, obviously, is the traffic that I know in some of our forums that we've had in the discussions, it's been a huge concern for the residents of Inverness Park, but also San Ramon. How many of you have been stuck on the gridlock coming off of 680 on Bollinger at 5 p.m.? And I know the statement with traffic has been, but that's only at a given time because Chevron employs 5,000 employees. So we're not proposing that many homes. The average home for CARP is 1.79 in 2019. So if we're proposing 2,600, I think was the last count on the homes, double that for two. And yet we're talking about 4 to 5 story buildings that will probably have multi-generational families living in there. I know that our neighbor across the street is multi-generational. They have 5 vehicles, and we ourselves are a family of 3 and we have 4. So I mean, I think that is something we really need to look at, is the impact that that is going to place on to Bollinger Canyon. It's already a gridlock at a very set time, but this will be at a very unspecified time, pretty much 24/7, because you'll have the community at stake, and people will come and go at all different hours of the day and night. And what will it put on our municipalities? So that's really a point that I have personal experience in. We were robbed twice within a year, our last time being November 29th on a Wednesday at 1 p.m. I was in San Jose and I got the call. I actually worked at Santana Row. So I was there. I made it home to my son before the police officer was able to get to my home from San Ramon. So already they're being taxed, and we're going to be adding that. So I think we need to look at the cost of that as well, and what it's going to put on our municipalities. Thank you.
I have no other speaker cards or hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and close the public comment at this time? The ask tonight was fairly narrow in scope. It was to allow the developer to continue to refine the process with very little new information shared tonight. I do have one question I think you could probably address. And it came up a couple of times: allow the marketplace to determine the 1 stories. What and how do you envision that process taking place?
Well, we're starting to see homes, in a few months, we'll see some homes sold at the Summerhill project at BR6. And I think what we're dealing with is, on the one hand, you had the gentleman's comment that we need to build the higher density option with more homes. On the other hand, you have a comment saying we need to build single story homes. And I understand, and frankly, if there's a desire to build single story homes, you'd almost rather go out and buy a house and rip the second story off of it, because this is an opportunity to create density in a place it should be. And the ground story of these homes, the ones at BR6 are the same, are just a garage. So if you need to duplicate the second story, not on the second story, it's going to go on the neighboring lot, and you get half the houses. It's doable. But it's a severe impact on what's going to happen with the lots. Now, if we bring the site to market to a home builder and they say we really want to build single story homes, I have no problem with that. I just feel like it's not the best thing for the site, and I'm trying to balance the comments of Mayor Clarkson with other people's comments. So if you have guidance on that, we're more than willing to hear it.
I'm not sure I do. I just was, I hear the comments from the public that believe there's a demand for 1 story, or at least some number. And also I've heard your comments that, the market will support anything that you build. There's no doubt, there's a market for almost anything in San Ramon for all the reasons that we live here. So I was just curious if there's a clear of everything we've talked about at this phase of the process. That seems to be one of the more, contentious comments, and one that needs a decision sooner versus later, so that you can finish building out the land map and the land plan. And I'm just curious what more data would be necessary to be able to make an informed decision on this, because I don't have the data personally.
It's not critical for the land plan. I don't think this is going to be 100 houses. I think Mayor Clarkson and I have talking about 25 houses or something like that. But I'm not one to hide things or create a smokescreen. What we're talking about is affordable single story homes, right? If a single story home costs the amount that it would require 2 lots, then, if you had 2 houses, if it was double the price because the demand was there, people would do that, but it's not. And so what we're really talking about is artificially creating demand, creating a product type which is not uneconomic. And if that's the desire, we're willing to consider that, but we're balancing that with the desire for density, meeting RENA numbers, creating density of place in the right places. And these will be our lowest density, as it is, these are the lowest density homes we have in Bishop Branch.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to pause for a second, let my fellow commissioners weigh in if they have comments at this point. Again, the request was to allow Sunset to start to do some more detailed planning. From what I can tell, the only real change to the land map was how far along 680 the 6th and story buildings came from last time. It's I think we talked about how far closer to down 680 it would go. And I think the recommendation is to kind of stop at those heritage oak trees now at this point. But,
If that's okay.
yeah. Do you have comments at this point? Yes. Mm-hmm.
First, I want to politely follow up on Mayor Clarkson's comments about when we get the material. I think it's important for us, as it should be for you, to allow us to have some time to study and do our own research on what you're proposing to do at the orchards. I mean, it's obviously a project that all of us are interested in, but we, like you, have an interest in making it as best a project as we can. We come from slightly different viewpoints, but I think the bottom line for both of us is we want a project that we could bring an out-of-state or out-of-city person to and say, here's what we're building, and have a person really like the project. Plus, it also adds something to San Ramon. I think it's important to remember something. The change of Chevron from an office park to a multi-use facility, including 2,600 homes, is allowing the city to claw back from the state land that would otherwise have to be used for housing. We are in the process of redoing our general plan. Part of that is to keep some of the commercial areas that could be developed for housing as mandated by the state, to keep them as commercial and retail. So that's the benefit we get off the top from this particular type of project. So it's not simply we are taking a vacant piece of property and turning it into housing. We are keeping the San Ramon to have some retail in the city that pays for our streets, that pays for our police and our fire. So those are things we need. And this development offers us an opportunity to keep that part of San Ramon we need, as well as providing people to increase the amount of retail we can have. Well, I've asked Mr. Mayron about the retail up in the north or the eastern side of the project. If you've ever been to Santana Row, you see that at night, certainly it is a vibrant area where you have ground floor retail. People come down from their buildings, and guess what? They come from other places, as well, despite the fact that I've been there. So it's a draw to bring that into the city. Now, we've had a lot of discussion about people mentioned schools. I've been on the Planning Commission since 2010, and I can tell you that it was drilled into me almost every meeting that we on the Planning Commission are not allowed to consider the impact on the schools of a housing project in the city. The state government has clearly said we can't do that. The responsibility of funding and making schools is to our elected school board. And so while I understand your comments about overcrowding of schools, that's something we can't consider. That's something you need to go to the school board for, because the development pays for the upkeep and for the creation of new schools. So while I understand your concerns, that's something we can't consider. The second thing that's always mentioned is traffic. And has been pointed out, Chevron, when it was employed, they had 5,000 or so employees, not including people coming from far off places like Houston for meetings. When you change the type of property from office to residential, like is being done at Summerhill down Camino Ramon, all the traffic studies will tell you that there is a decrease in the amount of traffic during the day, particularly during peak hours. For those of you who are concerned about the impact of that development on traffic, you can rest assured that as part of the entitlement process, one of the things that will undoubtedly be done is a professional traffic study participated in by our city traffic engineer to gauge the impact of those additional houses on traffic on Bollinger, which I tend to go down almost every day as well. So that it will be taken into consideration. We've also spent most of the time talking about the size of the homes built in that area. If you look at the map, and I would encourage you to do that, you'll see that most of the large structures are clustered on the north side of the property adjacent to Bollinger Canyon, as well as the other access road that Sunset has proposed for this development after speaking to the Planning Commission earlier in the year. As you get into the center of the project, the homes become smaller. And about half of the property, if you look at the map, are in orange. And again, I'm colorblind, I think it's orange. But those are identified as 2 to 3 story homes and townhomes. First of all, one thing you need to consider when it comes to building homes in San Ramon, every project that the City Planning Commission has looked at in the last 2 to 3 years has involved 3-story townhomes or condominiums. That's what's being built. Summerhill has 2 or 3-story townhomes. I don't believe there are any 1-story buildings in that entire development, which is 404 homes. So it is a fact of life that as the city is required to accommodate up to 5,000 dwelling units the next 8 years, that requires density. But that doesn't mean every place in the orchards has to be a 6-story apartment or condominium building. What we've talked about and what Sunset has talked about in the past is the most impacted area in terms of residential would be the area along Inverness Park. And that's why you saw the drawings and diagrams tonight depicting a 2-story home. So there is sensitivity as to the existing neighborhood there that we will take into account when we go farther down the line, which I hope Sunset will do to further refine the land use drawings that they've already created. But the idea that you're going to create 1- and 2-story homes in the majority of the area probably is not feasible. That's not the way the world works right now, and certainly not the way our friends up in Sacramento require us to act. What we can do is to ameliorate, to the extent we can, the impacts of higher development, recognizing that having 2,600 dwelling units in that space will have a built-in constituency for the marketplace, for city center, as well as that which is programmed for the orchards. But remember that across the street past City Center, City Walk is being built. And if you come down Bollinger, you've seen they've already started to work on development in the City Walk area, which I believe the first one is going up is the assisted care facility, because after all, they need to take care of the old people like me first. But that is an area that can be fed into the retail, not only on Chevron and the orchards, but also the 100,000 plus square feet of retail and other commercial that they're planning for the City Walk area. And with our ability to keep some of the retail along Crow Canyon Road as retail, we have a fighting chance to maintain our standard of living in this city, because the money that will come from that retail, both new and existing, is what pays for repairing potholes on the street, that pays for the police and the other amenities which most of you came to and stay in San Ramon to benefit from. So there's a lot of moving parts with this particular development, all of which we have to consider. And sometimes it's hard to see what we're doing because you don't see the stacks of paper we wind up looking at. But all of us look at this project from very different angles and are trying to make it as best we can for the entire city. So all the concerns that you mentioned, we understand to the extent we can, we deal with them. And we will work together with Sunset if we can to make this project one that is acceptable for both Sunset from an economic standpoint as well as the city from a living standpoint. And from what I've seen, I believe that's a goal that is eminently reasonable when we both sides roll up their sleeves and get to work. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Commissioner Wallace, as always. There's a couple of minor things you didn't say, but you spent 98% of what I thought of. So the question still comes, and I'm just thinking about this. The comments from Mayor Clarkson as well as Commissioner Wallace was, we saw this for the first time, and it would be good if we would have had time to look at it. I'm certain that and I'm not asking for any more information because this information is total, would the commission appreciate or offer more thoughtful comments if we asked Sunset to come back in 2 weeks with a redo of the exact same staff report? We've all said that we didn't have enough time to look at it. Would we have more thoughtful comments, if we were to have 2 weeks at our next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting to look at this? And if the answer is no, then I think we need to, our feedback and comments have been shared and will make a difference next time. But otherwise, I think we should, finalize our comments for tonight and ask Sunset to roll up their sleeves and come back with slightly more detail.
In answer to your question, I'm not sure that having this particular set of paper Friday would necessarily have engendered more discussion. But I think that some of the earlier paper, which had the land use designations and the changes to that, would have benefited if we'd have had that earlier to do some research and come up with comments.
Okay.
So I don't know that I would have any more comments than I made if I saw this Friday. Probably grateful that I don't. But I think in the future it would behoove everyone if we could see this earlier rather than the night of.
And I think that those comments were shared completely and thoroughly, and I think everyone gets that. Commissioner Kuznick, let me ask you that question.
Thank you. I'm not sure, again, this packet was quite small, but that's okay. As tradition, we feel better when we get it earlier. And for the next round, whether it's in 2 weeks or farther down the road, I think we heard a lot of comments also tonight about the retail. And so maybe as I'm looking at your land use diagram, maybe you can start adding some photos or some imaging of what that might look like for people. I think it's still kind of a new concept to many folks if they're not going to Santana Row or other places where they have these things. And that might be the next level of keeping everybody informed. And, people like to know ahead of time. And that, I think that would be helpful, is how you might envision the retail in addition to the housing part.
Yeah, I think for me, in order for us to answer the questions that were asked, which was the land use plan around the density around 680 and also the development's impact on Inverness Park, I don't know that I would have had any more questions that would have come out from this package. I definitely think having a more detailed look at this, since this is the first time as my seat in the commission is looking at this, having more detail. I do get concerned with some of the retail and how that's going to flow and things of that nature. Also with people crossing over Bollinger Canyon. I know that we have the one crosswalk there, but that in itself is a concern that I have. Just like to see how that would be built out. And I know that's a traffic study and things of that nature. But I don't know that I would have had any more in-depth, analysis or questions if I had gotten this on Friday, as opposed to looking at it today with those specific questions in mind.
Okay.
So.
In addition to the planning commission, the public also appreciates time to think about this as well. And, would you be willing to come back in 2 weeks with the same staff report? We have a regular meeting on August the 1st, do we? Yeah,
We have a pretty heavy agenda that night
okay.
already, but we can work, why don't we allow staff to work with Sunset on a
Okay.
time to return and
Okay.
what works for
And I,
schedules and stuff.
I want to just go on record as saying, I appreciate the incremental process that we're going through, you know, taking baby steps and not getting a 300 or 400 master plan, you know, presented to us, you know, and I think continuing is the right way to do it. And so I'm not asking to do any additional work for next time, although I have some thoughts on things to help us continue to, you know, take care of the process. I think the only thing that I would suggest, you know, in addition to just the same feedback and the same staff report essentially in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whenever it works, is at some point, because I think people are so interested in how we're going to get to the end line, to at least outline everything that we do. Commissioner Wallace did a good job of talking about all of the steps that we do, you know, on any development project, whether it's schools or utilities or infrastructure. Those questions keep coming up, even though they're not ready to be answered. Just, I think, to make sure that the public understands that we do actually work on all of those steps at some point in the process. It's just not now. We're extremely early in the process. And, you know, and that's all requested is I think we all appreciate how slow and methodical and incremental we're getting this feedback. So I don't want to stop that process.
Right. And so what I wanted for the public. So this process began late last year, if I recall, as an effort for Sunset wishing to participate in the general plan update, which is currently underway. And there's information on our website for that. So currently the project will be, as the commission agreed to, is being examined as an alternative to this process. So it may or may not be adopted as a land use designation, not as a project, but a very simple land use designation at the end of this year. So that's why the information you're seeing now is very incremental and it's being done very methodically, one step at a time, really trying to get feedback and solicit comments from the public. We do not have a formal application filed with us for a entitled project such as a Summerhill that you see under construction. We only have the application filed to change the land use designation to allow us to consider development on the Chevron property. So we don't, the information you see tonight is information that staff was also shared with staff also. So we don't have a formal application before us yet. So that will come much later this year, early next year. We don't have a date when that will be submitted. But just so kind of to clarify, this isn't really an entitlement process like you saw the Summerhill or the City Walk project go through. This is really the first steps of Sunset really sharing their vision with the residents as what they'd like to see on the Chevron property and really trying to solicit comments from the commission, the council, and the residents to get your input. So when they do come forward with an application for an entitlement, that they really have been very thoughtful and really talked with everyone involved.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? I think the final is that Sunset will work with staff to come back. Again, not asking for, you know, just the time to process and provide more thoughtful feedback. And with Ms. Chamberlain's explanation of the process that we're going through, I think that would be very helpful. You know, okay. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we have a couple of things left to do tonight. First of all, we're going to do a planning commission liaison update, followed by election of chair and then a year in review. So why don't we first do any commission liaison reports?
I have some information from the Parks and Community Services meeting. Pardon me. Just want to describe that they are in process of planning the 40th anniversary of the city and lots of things in process for that. It looks like it will be a lot of fun and a real celebration of our city and what has happened in our 40 years. Fun runs, activities, concerts. So another version of going all out. So it'll be great fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then also they were given the presentation from Ms. Yee on the Parks and Community Services portion of the general plan update and provided her with feedback for the Parks and Community Services element in the general plan update. So that was the bulk of the meeting. They thanked outgoing Heidi Kennison Lee for her service and recognized her efforts and wished her well. And so that was the thumbnail of that meeting.
I believe you went to the open space.
So on Monday, I went to the Open Space Committee and they also received a update from Ms. Yee on the general plan update as pertains to open space in San Ramon. And Open Space had a couple of comments short for their meetings. And I don't think they touched the open space stuff too much in the general plan. So I think we can count on their support. The only thing I do recall is, as some other people have mentioned, they favored using stronger language, thou shalt instead of we would like you to, that type of thing. On Thursday, I'm going to the TAC meeting where they are also getting an update from Ms. Yee on the general plan update. And I have no preconceptions about what they will want to say about the circulation element.
Okay, thank you. And then I attended the Architecture Review Board meeting and they had a second review of a facade improvement of the Eric's Deli Cafe shopping center. The goal of the architect, as explained by him, is today this building looks like an office building with a little bit of retail on the first floor. And what his vision is to turn it into a retail building with a little bit of office on the second floor. So the architects were very supportive of the process and their next step will be taking it to the zoning administrator. So we shan't see it. While we're on liaison assignments, we do have a vacancy. And that is, Commissioner Edwards leaving. She was the alternate on EDAC. I'd like to propose that Commissioner Curtis step in and serve as the alternate. They meet once a quarter and it's here in this building on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. If that will accommodate. Yes, they're currently once a quarter.
I can do that.
Okay, and then you'll find that it's a great committee and then perhaps you and I can swap spots between primary and alternate.
And through the chair, this is also the time if commissioners want to rotate assignments or they want to switch it up, it's entirely up to you. But we always get this opportunity once a year. If you are finding a desire to listen in on another committee or someone would like to do a trade up to move on to something else. So it's entirely up to the commissioners.
Any of the commissioners have a desire to do something different?
Well, I just got the park, so I'm good with that. But if someone wanted to take the primary on the housing, one of our newer members, they only meet quarterly also
as well. So, so the right answer is obviously is to nominate Commissioner Ahmed here since he's not in the room. So, well, perhaps we'll leave Commissioner Kuznick there and, Commissioner Wallace, you've been on that committee for a long time. I don't know if you have a desire to stop. We can, assign Commissioner Ahmed to that one as an alternate. He's probably okay with that,
the housing.
Hack.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, let's do that.
So, well, you wanted to get off being primary at this point, or do you want to stay?
No, I just wondered if someone else needed a primary assignment, that was a good one to.
Okay. At the last meeting, remember Commissioner Ahmed was a little bit concerned, commuting into the city or in San Ramon in the afternoon. And I think, Dave, you also, weren't sure how your schedule would play out. Yeah. Okay. We'll stay for now and then we'll keep calling you when we need backups.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. So I think we decided we're going to.
Chair Albert?
Yes.
I do have the speaker card for this item.
Oh, okay.
Taiwan's the country.
Hi, commissioners. I want to comment on some of the comments that you just provided. For open space, I was really appalled that the revision language on the master plan is putting down and depriving the rights of property ownerships. That is undemocratic and it should not be. So I really wish that whatever revision that you guys are working on the master plan, which is like the Bible that guides our development and our open space preservation, that you must take into consideration property owners' rights and take their comments and their CCNRs that were given when their homes were purchased under their development into consideration. Regarding EDAC, the most rapidly increasing population in our country is the seniors. I was appalled that EDAC doesn't have any senior representation. I'm wondering if, I don't know what the structure is. I'm surprised that there is no senior advisory committee liaison present at EDAC. As a taxpayer, I would like you to please ask for their liaison to be there whenever there's EDAC meeting, because their money is going to dictate a lot of the retail market in the next 10 years because of baby boomers are getting old, and we cannot ignore their needs. Architecture review, I was a little bit disappointed. I'm not sure why, but usually in the past, when I have attended this meeting, all three commissioners were there. But for the past two meetings, for some strange reason, there was only one steady commissioner present, and then the other one take turns being absent. I think it is not really conducive to productivity, and it sort of undermines the applicant's desire to move faster, because whatever the previous commissioner has addressed, without that commissioner being there the following time, there's really no holding responsible the questions and the comments that commissioner had addressed. So I would like you guys to please review if that time is the best for everyone, and to make sure that everyone is there when they need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional comments at this point? No. Okay, we'll go ahead and, oh, we do have one. We do have one. Hi.
Hello, my name is Gary Chabin, Commissioner. I just want to respond to that comment. I'm a 45-year resident of San Ramon, 76 years old, and I'm on the EDAC committee. EDAC is represented by a senior, and the input they receive is they're listening to. So just want to make that statement.
Thank you. Okay, why don't we go ahead and close public comment at this point then? Okay, and I think we rearranged the agenda a little bit, so we decided we would do 3.1 and 3.2 now, and then do the interview. We decided to do the interview for you. That's order, or do you interview first?
Let's move on to the nomination of officers for the year 23-24. And so the floor is now open for the nomination of Chair of the Planning Commission. May I have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Wallace as our chair for 23-24.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded.
Great, so motion passes 4-0-0-1. Congratulations, Commissioner Wallace. You'll do a fabulous job as always.
Yet again. He's back.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Would you, Chair Wallace, like to proceed with the nomination of Vice Chair?
Thank you. I would like to open the floor to nominations for the vice chair for the year 2023, 2024.
Okay, and I would like to nominate Commissioner Kuznick.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And we have 4 yes votes for Commissioner Kuznick, 1 no vote for our absent commissioner. So I'm not sure if it's congratulations or condolences. Commissioner Kuznick, welcome back. Item 3.3. This is the final item.
For the chair,
Oh,
we
sorry.
do have a speaker card for this item.
Okay.
Taiwan's a country.
It's really funny. I've never attended any city meeting for like maybe 4 years now, that there is not an agenda. Really, Attorney Poon, please, that's your job. Keep them straight.
And to the chair, this is not relevant to.
But
your
it is
item.
because I was commenting on, I
So
didn't know what
this
item
is-
number to say, but I just want to
Comments should be-
congratulate and thank you all for volunteering your time. I appreciate that. What you're doing really represents our interests because you do it in such procedure that is transparent. And I really appreciate all of you who don't just come to this kind of meetings. You also are liaisons who go to different meetings, which is why it's important to have senior advisory liaison who then can bring whatever they hear at EDAC back to senior advisory as a discussion item. This gentleman here, he may represent economic interests that do not get transported back because of the role that he serves in. He's not a liaison. Therefore, I still request that you would please, if it's in your power to do so, make sure that there is a senior advisory member at EDAC meetings. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 3.3, which is a tough one in a way, is to recognize our outgoing chair, Gary Alpert. And I would open the floor up for my fellow commissioners if they would like to say a few words to Commissioner Alpert.
Of course. So Commissioner Alpert, I just want to say that, you were my first introduction to being on the Planning Commission. And at every turn in working with you, you have been just the consummate gentleman. Your kindness and thoroughness and your gentleness in helping rookies get acclimated. And I suspect that with the second crop of new appointees, that they have also benefited from your wisdom and your experience and how you onboard new commissioners. That is an important skill that we have benefited from. And so now 3 of us have benefited from that wisdom. And so we're really grateful. You run a nice, kind, gentle meeting, move us along, have it stay on track. And you also really take the time to study the agenda, to meet with the planning department, to review what's coming up, what might be the issues, to prepare for comments. And it's just a lot of stuff happens behind the scene that people don't know so much about, but they see the effects of all that planning. And so we're really, really grateful that you're on the commission and you've done such a good job in being the chair in my first term and now as I move into the second term. So I'm personally very grateful. And I know that you'll enjoy moving to the side here and just having comments and speaking without having to be checked by being the chair. But thank you so much.
Yeah, my vast experience of the Ceremon Valley or City of Ceremon Planning Commission for the last 2 months, I would have to say that I have welcomed all the leadership and mentorship that you provided me as well. You took your time to provide me with some insights of exactly how the meetings are run, what to expect, when to duck, and when to run. So I appreciate that as well. You really helped actually calm my nerves quite a bit before the first meeting, walking in here and kind of taking on in a time where Ceremon is in such a big transition, going through the general plan with the build out of Chevron and so forth. So everything that Commissioner Kuznick said, I echo, and I just want to say thank you very much. Looking forward to continuing with you as we work together. It looks like on the EDAC committee now, so that'll be exciting to get more mentorship from you on that as well. Thank you.
Gary's been such a fixture at our meetings. I had to ask him today when he joined the Planning Commission, because it seems like he's been here almost forever. It's actually 2016 when he joined. When you look back over the year that Gary's been our chairperson, and I'm going to try not to steal too much thunder from Lauren, but you look at the things that we've done and the things we've reviewed, they are in enormity in their scope. We started on the review of the housing element when Jean was the chairperson, but we finished up this year to become, correct me if I'm wrong, the first city in Contra Costa County to have a certificate in the Tri-Valley, to have a certified housing element. That is no small feat, as you can ask any of the other 30 cities in the county and Tri-Valley. We've also managed to do something that our city has been trying to do at least for 20 years. And I know since at least 2010, when I joined the Planning Commission, to try and come up with some way to salvage the Harlan House at the El Nido property. And we finally came up with a plan that I hope is doable. But having been here for 13 years, it's probably the best one that I've seen in terms of having any realistic possibility from saving that house. And Gary chaired us through, I don't know how many meetings we lost track of, and went through a lot of opposition from locals. But we did the right thing, which was to approve that project. And I have my fingers crossed that it will get done the way we approved it, and things work out, and we actually have some part of that property salvaged. We also managed to do something that San Francisco has been trying to do for 2 years. We managed to approve the repurposing of a commercial building in San Ramon up on Deerwood Road. That project entailed a property that was greenlighted by the county back in the 1980s that has basically sat there vacant for years. And Gary managed us through a number of meetings that we now have not only housing up there, but we actually have to be built real affordable housing, which is something that's very difficult to do. And you've seen driving down here today, you've seen the results of the work that Gary chaired us on to get the first part of the City Walk project approved. You see the assisted care facility going up, soon to be followed by the first apartment building that's part of the City Walk project. And of course, we've had tonight probably the fourth or fifth meeting on the Chevron Park property that Gary has led us on. And as we've gone through these meetings, I think that the project has been improved. And as I pointed out, there's a lot of benefit to the city in approving the project in a way that benefits the city. And Gary was an integral part of chairing those meetings that we were able to do this. I echo what Commissioner Kuznick said about the way that Gary runs the meetings. He runs it with a light but firm hand. Everyone gets an opportunity to speak their mind, both on the dais and in the public. And that's an important part of being chair that people don't always understand, is that it's not simply saying your turn to talk here, but giving people an opportunity to talk and allowing the commissioners to explain the decisions they've made. Because one of the biggest parts of being a public official is to explain to members of the public why you've made a decision, so they know that not only was there a reason why you did it, but you actually listened and took into account their concerns and their beliefs, even if you did not agree with them, but you paid attention to what they said and took that into account. And that's something that Gary has been very good at. Our planning commission has been improved by his ability to do that. And on the downside, I will miss Gary being chair. On the upside, he's going to be sitting probably right next to me. And so I'll be able to have him do the same things he did, but on a more active basis, since he is no longer the chair. Thank you very much, Gary. And as you know, Asher is in London right now and couldn't be here, but the rest of us wanted to give you a token of our appreciation with a thank you for all the hard work that you put in as chair, and the expectation that you'll work just as hard being a commissioner.
Well, y'all you're wrong about one thing. Being the chair really doesn't give you any more power or authority. It's the hard work of the commission that really comes to play in all of our decisions and everything we've done. And I would be remiss in not giving a huge shout out to everything the staff has helped us do for the past year. The workload has been just monumental, I think, as much as I've ever seen. And, it's easy to think back and say we only did housing for the past year, general plan, because it feels like, but that's not true. And Lauren's going to go over everything we've done. And believe it or not, we also had 8 meetings canceled during my last year. So, and those of you that have heard me talk, I hate it when we cancel meetings because I like being here and I think there's so much work. But in staff's defense and our defense, a couple of the meetings were on holidays like the 4th of July and New Year's Day. And I guess it's okay not to work on those days. But, in thinking back on the year, I have to thank, people that have been, helping me, significantly get to here. You don't wake up and decide to be a commissioner and know what to do. And Commissioner Marks, of course, has been just a wonderful coach and mentor. Commissioner Wallace, you as well, and most importantly, Debbie and Lauren and Cindy and Ryan and Shanae and all of the staff that have helped. And, I just, really do appreciate all the things you did. And my last comment, and I'm not sure if it made it into the year in review, Lauren, but I think one of our accomplishments that I think we all appreciate is back on February 21st, we made the decision to change our meetings to 6 p.m. And that was as a result of a couple of meetings going past 11 o'clock. And I think staff said, enough's enough. If you're going to keep talking so much and we can't get you out of here at a reasonable time, we're going to make you start earlier. And so, I think we were a role model on that to get ourselves out of here. And, there's a chance we'll get out of here when the sun's still out. And that's kind of a nice thing.
And so from the staff perspective, for Lauren Gibson, to our presentation, some of you don't know that I also serve with Gary on through the League of Cities on policy committees. And so Gary and I both work with various elected officials more primarily. And so we are really the two practicing land use folks in our respective committees and working on legislation at the state level. And so I've been very honored to have Gary participating in a number of policy committees at the league. I think tax and rev was one and environmental quality was the other one. Yep. And so he's enjoyed doing that. And Gary participates in our monthly planning department calls with the league, where I'm ending my second term as president, but it's always been nice having him a shiny face on those meetings in the morning and his comments and his mentoring of other commissioners too, and sharing his thoughts about how San Ramon does things. So I've been appreciative of his participation in that also. And from the city's perspective, we have a beautiful plaque to give you for your, I think your third services chair, is that correct? Second services chair. But congratulations.
I love having these up too. Oh, this is
It's a new one. It's very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. With that, our last item on the agenda
Through the
is
chair, I do have a speaker card for this item.
come on
Across
down.
the country.
Hi, Chair Alpert. I know that you're going to continue to stay here, but I just want you to hear this from me. I want to thank you so much for volunteering your time, not only at this committee. I know that you also do a lot for the school district, and your wife also do a lot, and your entire family really do so much for our city. And I owe you a thank you. And on behalf of my children too, because without you guys working so hard, the past decade and a half of their life would not have been so smooth and blessed. And I just want to thank you so much. Lastly, I want to say every time I look at you, you remind me of the statues I saw at the Louvre. You have a very philosophical look about you. And I think it's probably your law training. And I think that we're very fortunate because you're someone who could have been on the Supreme Court because you're so calm and you're able to take everyone's opinion and then you calmly, spit it back to everyone. And in our pluralistic and diverse society like this, it is very important we have a referee or a regulator like you who keeps everything in check of procedures and policies so everyone feel our society is fair. So then we can live in peace and harmony. So thank you so much.
Mr. Barr, the floor is yours for both looking back over the last year and looking forward.
Sure. Well, welcome back, Chair Wallace. And Good evening again. So it's become a bit of a tradition that we do a year in review for the outgoing chair for their term, and we highlight some of the projects and just provide updates on where we are with some of them. And so I'll continue the practice with this presentation. So we have the City Walk Bishop Branch 1A apartment project that was approved back in September of 22, 381 multifamily residential units within the Bishop Branch 1A neighborhood of the City Walk Master Plan. 85 feet tall, 7-story building. It's got an internal parking structure, and it's incorporated with the Belmont Village in the neighborhood, as well as a community park. And so they are actually in plan check right now. And we're working through the technical review of their project. As was mentioned, the El Nido Assisted Living approvals took some time and effort to get through that process. But this is a 72-bed residential care facility. It did integrate the historic house into the design of the project, and this was approved back in November. This one also is in plan check, working through the process, and a very complicated set of requirements related to historic structures, and as well as care facilities have unique requirements. As was also mentioned, the housing element and general plan update took a lot of our time. We did get a certified housing element out of the process, and we continue to work our way through that process. And we'll talk a little bit about upcoming events and some of the meetings in the weeks and months to come. We also do our general plan annual report. That was in February of 2023. We do the implementation status of the general plan, as well as the housing element progress report. And so that came through the commission, went to council, and was sent off to the state. We did revisions to the fire district training facility, and that's at 1500 Bollinger Canyon Road. There was some change in some of the building configuration, as well as the training props, and that was again in February of 2023. I'm sure we remember Marketplace mixed use development. That was the demolition of about 5,500 or 55,000 square feet of commercial space to make room for 40 single family detached condo units. And again, that was a lot of discussions, a lot of procedural questions related to SB 330, and how we've sort of taken those lessons and integrated into the process that we use now. And that was actually approved by council in March of 2023 based on an appeal. The 2481 Deerwood Townhomes, that was also a fairly extensive process, lots of hearings associated with the general plan amendment rezone, as well as the entitlements themselves. But this is a project that's replacing an existing office building, included some dedication of open space, and has a affordable housing component that will be for sale. And that was in April of 2023. We did the extension to the Chang residential development proposal. And that's 43 single family homes and 18 accessory dwelling units in the Northwest Pacific Plan area. This is currently under consideration for annexation with LAFCO. They have just recently, within the last, I think, month or so, extended their timeline to give the applicant more time to complete the process, similar to what the timeline is for the planning approvals. And so we anticipate concept review will come back for some revisions they'd like to consider. As you're also aware, with the orchards or Chevron Park workshops, we've had a number of discussions related to this potential project, and looked at some of the implications to housing and retail within the community. And so we'll continue to work through the considerations of this project, as well as the impacts on the potential general plan update that we're currently considering. More recently, the laborers union concept review for housing. This was the 21 market rate single family units and 4 attached below market rate units. This is a housing opportunity site. again, early in the process, just looking at the ideas of what would be possible. Part of the discussions related to this will be open space dedication and how to fit this in with some of the park planning efforts for Big Canyon. And then make sure that we accomplish the goals related to open space preservation and trail management as well. So projects that are currently in the pipeline, we have the Iron Horse Village, which is an SB 330 application. And we did an early workshop with them. This is demolishing an existing office building, and that's 117 unit housing development. We are currently under review for the environmental for this particular project, and we anticipate it will come back in the fall for hearings. Approved and under construction, Aspenwood Senior Apartments. I think you're all familiar with this one. City Village, it looks like they're finally getting some slabs built, utilities, and we should see it go vertical in the not too distant future. The Promenade at the Preserve Neighborhood 5, well underway. And then the Preserve proper is winding down, parks being constructed and should be hopefully accepted later in the year or early next year. Belmont Village under construction. I think it might actually be taller by now than this one, but they're moving very quickly. It's a senior care facility, as we mentioned, as part of the City Walk Master Plan. And so it'll be a significant component of that 1A neighborhood in City Walk. We had the Primrose Daycare Center renovations and reconfiguration. And so that one's moving forward as well. And then we have a few projects that have kind of in limbo that haven't quite gotten to permit readiness yet. We have the TTLC townhomes at 500 Deerwood. That's with the large retaining wall on the bottom portion. They're actually in plan check. They just haven't moved forward to issuance yet. The Golden Skate property or Windflower Townhomes that was approved also is waiting for permits. There's some issues with landslides in the GAD district of Faria, so they're working through some process there. We hope to see some progress on that in the next few months to come. And then, of course, San Ramon Valley Apartments, the Rome project. They are in plan check. They resubmitted under the new building code. So we're working through a process with them. And we're hopeful that they'll be able to proceed at some time in the near future. And then there's the City Center Hotel at the corner of Bishop and Camino Ramon. This particular project was a bit of a victim of COVID and some of the challenges with travel and vacation. It's still a valid application. We're waiting on permits and there's some discussions about how the area might get reconfigured as part of City Walk, Chevron, and everything else. So there may be some changes in the future for this project, but in the meantime, it's still vested and approved. And that does it for the year in review. If there are any questions or comments, I'd be happy to respond.
One question, what's the status of the San Ramon Apartments?
They are in plan check.
Oh, they are, okay.
They had filed a while back and the code changed. The building code changed while they were in process, and their old plan check expired and they had to renew under the new code. So they had to resubmit and build under that. Now, there are some challenges with property owners. There's some litigation in the process between property owners. So.
Oh, okay. But they're in plan check for the 169 units that we permitted?
As approved.
Okay.
That was the very first item I remember doing, because I got appointed, and then I think it was Debbie and Lauren and I want to say Chenier at the time, maybe, met me there and said, welcome to the commission. This is what you're going to talk about Tuesday night. And so it was you know, and that was as Eric Rement said, 2016. So, you know, it was.
So in terms of upcoming items, August 1st, we'll be doing some discussions on the general plan elements, as well as on the 15th. And so that's really been our focus is, as was mentioned, we've been with the liaison reports, we've been reaching out to all the committees and getting feedback on their respective elements. And now we're bringing them back through the planning commission, and as well as with the land use growth management and some of the elements that are more focused toward the planning commission proper. And so we will also have a few development applications scattered in here and there. We're just working on the timing of those things. That's all I have for you right now.
We do have a speaker card for this item. Taiwan's the country.
First of all, Mr. Barr and commissioners, I want to thank you guys so much of all the times that you have put in. I can tell that these are beautiful projects of your hard labor. I do want to share with you, though, that I was recently at the Under the Star event where they were celebrating the one-room schoolhouse that started our city back in 1946. I met a lot of senior pioneers who started our city and make this area possible. And I can't help but remember my own mother who passed away in November. Because my mother lives in Taiwan, I was not able to physically be there. So when I see all these people who have gifted me and my children this beautiful life here, they're getting old. And it wouldn't be fair to them because we're really gentrifying our community by building all these very fast-paced lifestyle. It's okay, but it is not okay in the process of bringing in these people that we overlook those people who, when we were kids, held our hands to cross the street. And now they're older, they're slower than we tell them, go move somewhere else. It is not okay. So I urge you not to just build beautiful facade. Make sure our hearts stay beautiful. Thank you.
No other speakers.
Okay. Well, unless someone has any other comments they would like to make, we are adjourned.